Your name and spell it for me.
Michael Maron, M-A-R-O-N.
Okay, and tell me your title
I
here.
am the President and Chief Executive Officer of Holy Name Medical Center.
Perfect. Okay. You have been one of Bergen Lead's biggest supporters for so long. Why? Why do you? What is it about Bergen Leads in particular that draws you?
Well, I think the whole initiative is critical. In all my years in leadership in the healthcare
Could you
industry.
start that? I'm sorry, could you start from the top again?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, so why you've been one of Bergen Lead's biggest supporters? Why?
Bergen Leads to me is an essential program in Bergen County. We have an absence and a shortage of good quality leaders who understand that they're part of a bigger community and that it's a complex and ever-changing community. And what Bergen Leads is about is taking younger potential future leaders and even some current leaders and reminding them and putting them through a training course around their community, what's going on in their community, clarify misperceptions, and to sort of encourage them to step up and become those future leaders of tomorrow. So for me, to be able to participate in that type of a program, to contribute to that overall understanding of what's going on in the community, to me that is a great blessing and something that is sorely needed.
Okay, that's great. Are you seeing the shadow that I'm seeing?
No.
Okay, good. I want to go back a little bit. So how did you first learn about Bergen Leads or become involved?
So I first came involved because of a longtime, dear, good friend, Pat Schubert. And Pat had approached me to speak on healthcare in Bergen County to one of the first classes. We joke about it often. As you know, I speak often publicly. And I went with a PowerPoint. And for years after, I would always go with a PowerPoint and never got past the first slide. Because my style is such that I'd rather have an engaged conversation, ask the students what's of important to them, and have them ask questions, and then I would give them very honest and blunt answers. So the combination of the two usually provided for a very dynamic and very engaged conversation. Not always harmonious, sometimes disagreement, right? But that's the beauty of sort of understanding and learning to lead.
You're obviously a hospital CEO, a big CEO at a hospital. Talk to me a little bit about the importance of leadership.
Leadership is critical. And as I said, we have a real shortage of that in everything from our leaders in government, our leaders in large corporate entities and companies around the country, right down to church leadership, take your pick, right? Where leaders have traditionally been found, we have a shortage. And just because someone has a title, this is one of my standard lines, just because I have the title, President and Chief Executive Officer, does not make me a leader. That is something you have to earn. And the way you earn it is by engaging with your people, communicating with them, listening to them. Listening is the more important part of communicating rather than just speaking. And then being able to convey a vision and an understanding as to what's going on so that people can rally around that and perform. It's one of the hallmarks of Holy Name. It's why we win so many awards, because every employee here feels a part of the organization.
When you speak to the Bergen Leads students, what's the message you're trying to convey to them?
My message that I try to convey to all of them is specifically around healthcare. It's complex. Most of what you read and see in the press and in the headlines isn't true or accurate. It is calculated misperception to, manipulate your beliefs. Use your critical thinking. See through that. Don't judge people for it. It's just part of the nature of the business. But you're smart. You're intelligent. You have your own gifts. And so what you need to do is, one, always be critical of what you see or read in the press and in the public media anywhere. Secondly, look inside yourself, find your gift, be confident in it, and let it flourish. And that is where leadership will come from. It can't be phony. It can't be contrived. It can't be because I chose a greater career path or I wanted that title. It has to be something that's really innate and part of you. I learned that kind of the hard way here. I'm at Holy Name for 31 years. In the beginning, it was all about title, career, salary, and where I was sort of moving up the line. And somewhere early on, it became more than that. And once Holy Name became very personal to me, then natural leadership sort of evolved. It wasn't about me, it was about Holy Name. And it wasn't what was good for me would be good for Holy Name. It was what would be good for Holy Name is good for me. I've always said to them, and I'm a big believer in this, which we don't see much more anymore in a very selfish, narcissistic world that we live in. Sacrifice and service to others, putting them before you. You're having the confidence and the ability to step back and say, I can lead from behind. You don't have to be in the front. Servant leadership, right? It's a great concept. We don't see it much anymore. To me, it is the strongest and most empowering. And when you really look at that, it's contradictory to what most people think. But in giving, you will receive much more. And so if you adopt servant leadership and you adopt that ability to say, I don't have to be in the spotlight and I don't have to be front and center. I can celebrate those that work with me, not for me, and who do incredible things. Let them be front and center. And through that, your own leadership gets stronger and more solid and less challenged.
Obviously, as a hospital, you serve the community, and giving back to the community. What's the importance of giving back to the community and the role that Bergen Leads plays in people giving back?
Giving back.
Mm-hmm.
So, absolutely beyond any doubt in my mind in what we do, the greatest gift you have is to be able to give back. And so those who recognize that and have the ability, to me, also have a responsibility. If one of our physicians here is a great man, often said that, the opportunity to do good knocks on our door more frequently than we realize. We are often just too busy to listen, and the opportunity passes. Don't wake up and stay alert and don't miss the next opportunity because it's coming, right? And when you realize it and all of a sudden you open the door and you realize the opportunity to do good is there, you realize how many past opportunities you probably missed. All because we're just too self-consumed, we're too busy. It's easy in this pace world that we live in to lose sight of that. And so that is critical. And I think what Bergen Leads does is helps hone these young aspiring leaders to stay tuned to that, right? And to understand that you're part of this community, that you have the opportunity to pay it forward and let others see it. Then do it. Because time is short, it's precious. Don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. And be alert. And when the opportunity knocks, seize the opportunity. Don't let it pass.
What do you consider your biggest achievement at Holy Name?
My biggest achievement here would probably be the fact that we're the only hospital, the only health system, if you will, in New Jersey. For 13 years, we have been voted by our employees the best place to work. And in the recent years, we're the only hospital that makes the list. So the fact that our employees, we don't pay the highest, right? We have our challenges being a standalone hospital. But the manner and the purpose as to why we're here, which we constantly remind everybody, and the manner in which we fulfill that purpose is so rewarding to people that even those who leave often want to come back. And the fact that they would vote this organization into that category, being the only hospital, this is a labor business. There is no greater, I know of no other industry that requires so much human capital and so much personal interaction in order to succeed. You would think every hospital would be at the pinnacle of employee engagement and of understanding and interaction with and we're not, sadly, as an industry. So for Holy Name to stand out in that regard, by far are my proudest achievement here.
There's this thing that everybody tells me at the Volunteer Center that after you speak, the students are always like, be like Mike. And that's something that they constantly talk about. When you hear that you're having such an impact on these future, hopefully future leaders
Yeah.
in the community, in the world,
Yeah.
they all want to be like Mike. Talk to me about be like Mike.
Well, I don't know about that, so I can tell you this. I said, so part of my style, and up until recently, people would have a tendency to always call me Mr. Marin or want to out of respect, and I appreciate that. But I always am very quick to tell them, no, you call me Mike. When my father was alive, I said, he's Mr. Marin, I'm just Mike. You can call me Mike. Part of that is to set the tone that I am no better than you. I am just blessed to have the opportunity to sit in this role. That does not make me any better than you. So please, just call me Mike. I'm informal, right? I also will speak my mind, right? Which is part of the controversy around that group. So if you ask me a question, I am going to answer it truthfully. Why I don't often need scripted presentations is because you speak from the heart and you speak truthfully. And not afraid if someone asks me a question I don't know, say, gee, you know what, I don't really know the answer to that question, and we'll find out. But up until that point, right, I'm well versed in a whole host of subjects, especially around healthcare and especially around healthcare in Bergen County. So I've always conveyed that to the people, all the students, all the participants in Bergen Leads. Be honest, be truthful, be true to yourself, right? It all starts with you first, right? If I have that inner peace and I have that inner confidence, then I'm gonna emulate that out to everybody that I come in contact with. It's just gonna radiate in such strength. They're gonna be impacted by it, and the sincerity of what you say and the passion with which you say it is gonna be palpable. They'll see it, and then they'll believe it, right? My other is your word is your bond. So if you make a promise or you do say something, be prepared to stick behind it, right? And if you misspeak, which we all do, we're all human, we can make mistakes, then admit it. Never be afraid to admit that you made a mistake. It's going to happen. It makes you human, and it makes you real. People can connect with that. When we put on all these airs and these false pretenses, and we try to, Photoshop our lives around something that's not real, that comes through. People perceive it. They may not comment on it. They may not say, gee, that's not really real. That seems contrived, right? You don't want to ever, to me, you don't want to do that. If we had a little more honesty, a little more respect for each other, and we're able to speak our minds without hostility and to convey our thoughts in a civil manner, then the world would be a far better place. All starts with planting that seed. Right? To me, there is absolutely no reason to think that all those people who have come through and benefited by the teachings and the exposure of Bergen Leads can't be the seeds to a much greater revolution that will occur, not just in Bergen County, in New Jersey, in the country, in the world, where they can actually then start to expand and influence others and make it a reality.
Perfect. My last question to you is, you said it too, servant leadership. Just being a servant leader. Just tell me, what does that mean, servant leadership?
Servant leadership means that you are in a role for the benefit of others, not yourself. And that you have to be willing to step up and to sacrifice and make those commitments to see them through and deliver them, right? On behalf of others, never yourself. So it is really it is very difficult, especially today. It's harder and harder for the younger generation to understand it, where you need to step back and be willing to actually sacrifice. We look at people all the time and they say, gee, sacrifice, that's crazy. My motto here is I would never ask anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do myself, right? And I would never do that, and I mean that with all sincerity. I'll give you a small example. I'm not a clinician by training. I'm not a physician. I'm not a nurse. But when the Ebola crisis was looming in New Jersey, and we were all preparing as to how would we deal with a potential patient that would have to be quarantined in our emergency, and everybody was going through with fear and trepidation about, I'm young, I got a family, I got kids, I don't want to be exposed. This is probably the most risky and hazardous engagement as a healthcare professional that I would have experienced, right, should it have come to fruition. So when we were training here, I made it very clear to Dr. Schwab, the medical director of our emergency room, that if a patient showed up here, that I would gown up with him and go into the room, even though all I could do is help, hand him instruments or follow his lead, that I wasn't offering any, but I would never ask anybody else. And so I trained with him for that purpose. That is, to me, is so critical. Never ever ask anybody to do something you're not willing to do yourself. If I walk down the hallway and see paper on the floor, I'm going to stoop and pick it up. It's not beneath me to do that, right? I'm no better than anybody else. It's paper there. We want a clean organization, a clean hospital. Pick it up. Don't call and say, where's environmental? There's paper on the floor. That's not leadership. Servant leadership is showing that respect to everybody, no matter what level they are, no matter what race, creed, socioeconomic level you come from. You're a human being, part of this world, just like me. I am no better than you, right? And anything that people today perceive as being different should only be perceived as a blessing to be given back. Only that is the purpose of our lives, right? To just give back.
I lied. One more question. 10 years, Bergen Leeds is celebrating their 10th anniversary, and in this 10th year, you're being honored as so vital and inspirational to them. Sort of 10 years, a nonprofit, a program for the community. What's the significance of that longevity?
To me, it shows the hunger that exists out there for people to want to be part of something bigger than just themselves, and to have the resources and the opportunity to learn and to grow in a productive, and community sharing way. I applaud everyone associated, starting with Pat Schubert, with Bergen Leeds, for their commitment, their role. Right, it's been consistent along the way. Some turnover. Janet Sharma was also a great friend. She took it to a whole nother level. Biana and everybody else associated, they do a great job. Their passion, their commitment to see the talent and the gift of all the people that come into that program over the years. For this to survive 10, it should go on for another 100 at least. And that would be a blessing to everybody, to my future grandchildren, and to everybody else who chooses to live in this community going forward, to know that we have a program that's helping educate and create awareness among future leaders down the road. That just keep it going.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You're awesome. As one of you would think.
Thank you.
Okay, so